Campbell.
And I'm Ron Jackson.
Cerebral conversations on disability liberation and integration. Everybody, and welcome to Cerebral Conversations, Episode 7. This is Cerebral Conversations on disability liberation and integration. I'm CJ Campbell.
And I'm Ron Jackson.
Ron, I just got done listening to Minor Threat Spinal Violence, and I'm ready to get cerebral. So tell me about your week.
My week has been great. I got some Korean food for the first time in about 13 years.
Yeah, you've been having just a lot of home-cooked meals for the first time in a while. You've been having a lot of... Your apartment looks amazing. Why don't you tell people about what your apartment looks like?
My apartment actually looks like an actual apartment now because I have decorations on the walls and I have some of my birthday presents in my bedroom, which consisted of posters and placards for the Cubs and the Blackhawks.
Yeah, so basically you have like one wall dedicated to the Cubs. You have one wall dedicated to wrestling. And then you have one wall that's dedicated to just like Japanese stuff.
Asian motif.
Yeah, but then you also have a pet.
Yes, I do.
Tell people about your pet.
My new pet is a fish, a beta fish, and this fish is very neurotic.
Yeah.
He is quite strange. His name is Jung, after the psychologist Carl Jung, and this fish is odd. He won't eat his food, he sleeps at weird times, and he just floats around his bowl like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, you have the weirdest fish
Yes.
I think I might have ever met. And I grew up with fish, so I feel like I know them well. And actually, we had piranhas growing up, but not only that, for the short period of my life where my dad lived with me, my dad would, we have tropical fish.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had, things like angelfish and gars and just, a lot of stuff like that. Well, my dad would catch stuff out of the Kishwaukee River, so he'd be like putting bullheads in there, and then they would like eat like a $35 fish.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But anyways, I've been reaping the benefits of you having the most BAPAs ever. So word up to Nikki and Alexis and Shane, especially Shane.
Shout out to Sugar Shane.
Yeah. I gotta get my Korean food noms on, eating some kimchi with some rice noodles.
Don't forget the bulgogi.
Well, I didn't eat the bulgogi because bulgogi is
yes,
meat.
you didn't eat the bulgogi, but the bulgogi was amazing.
Plus, a vast majority of PAs are usually women.
Yes.
So it's been really interesting to have a man around the house and just get some like bro time.
We finally have some more testosterone around us.
Yeah. So that's been nice, and
yes.
And we're gonna watch the UFC fight this weekend.
We're gonna watch people get punched in the face.
Yeah. There's something about my pacifism that I just cannot reconcile with watching UFC, but there's something I just really enjoy about it, and I don't understand it. I wish I just didn't enjoy it, but I do. But I mean, also, we got to hang with Shane, and he went above and beyond and took us both grocery shopping, which that was pretty cool.
Yes, Shane is an awesome person. We went to Walmart the other night, and CJ got a lot more stuff than I did, but I enjoyed going just because I got to pick some of my own food for the first time in a while.
Now you gotta pick all your own food, really, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm just not done.
Yeah. Well,
So,
uh, I'm a much more experienced shopper than you, so you know, I I get in there with a mission and I just make it happen.
yeah, it was it was a good time because we just got to hang out and fellowship.
Yeah, just friendship is a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is.
Also, sometimes your friends will embarrass the crap out of you, which is my experience this weekend. All right, so here's the deal. Uh, as you know, I have a close friend named Ben. We celebrate Shabbat every every week together, and there's like a big group of us, and we get around and we like cook vegetarian meals together. We drink some coffee. Every once in a while, we might share a microbrew or two, and we talk about Torah. We talk about Yeshua, So it's good to have and like uh, Ben was my roommate during my last year of pastoral school. So he's one of my closest just homies. Well, I gotta be honest. He embarrassed the garbage out of me this weekend.
What happened?
Okay, so there's a girl named Jackie who uh, comes to Shabbat every once in a while, and she had her 21st birthday, and I got invited to the party, and just by kind of happenstance, I sent her a Facebook friend request the day of her party, and my interactions with Facebook, like I like to kind of, try to be funny on people's comments and not like maliciously troll them, but like, just be like, just talk about like candy and unicorns or just something like that. So I don't really know this person, but like I'm having fun with them and whatever. So we're getting ready for the birthday party, and the plan is because Ben and I really don't have a whole lot of money, and it's last minute, we decide to make her a card. Well, it starts off. Ben picks me up, and he starts telling all of our other friends. He's like, CJ and Jackie are gonna start dating.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh my god, don't do that, because I don't even really know this person. And so we like sit in this pizza place here in town called Denali's, and we're eating a garlic pineapple pizza, which I know sounds weird, but it's a legit combo.
It sounds legit.
So we're two mid-20s dudes sitting in a pizza parlor and with construction paper and like a Sharpie and some tape and scissors. We're making a 21-year-old woman like a card like a 6-year-old, and we made our face out of it and all of this stuff, and we made her look like, because we used brown paper for her skin like a coffee color, we made her look like a 40-year-old smoker who's been tanning for like 15 years. Like she'd like just spent her summers in Boca.
Oh my God.
So then for the card, we decided on the back to put 21 reasons why Jackie is awesome. Okay. So I was coming up with like crazy stuff. Like number 2 was, we are pretty sure you're not Adolf Hitler.
That's a safe bet. Yes.
Or what I came up with was, you were once a baby.
I'm pretty sure that's true too.
Well, that's why it's funny. So what I didn't know is that Ben and then our mutual friend Sarah, by the way, Sarah, if you're watching this, I still haven't forgiven you for this. They put for one of the reasons, and they didn't tell me. Well, they told me, and I thought they were joking. I was like, please don't put this. They put, you're single, and so is CJ.
Oh!
Okay.
Boy.
So I found that out, and I was just like, oh man, because I'm thinking, okay, I just sent this girl a Facebook friend request that day. I was like, teasing her on Facebook. She's gonna get the wrong idea. Well, then also throughout the night, Ben and Sarah were just like throwing little comments. So we went out to a bonfire, and Ben would be like, "Hey, Jackie should sit next to CJ because they're gonna be dating." Oh man, it drove me insane.
That had to be a little bit annoying.
I know, and personally, I just feel bad for this woman Jackie, this girl, because I'm thinking it's her 21st birthday. She's trying to have a good time, and some dude she doesn't know might be hitting on her, and she might not know. So I was just like, oh.
As it turns out, though, from what I hear, there is a bit of a happy ending to the story because didn't she message you a couple days ago?
No, I don't know what you're
No?
talking about.
Okay.
Think Ron smoking the crack.
I might be. I thought.
Yeah, but that's just. But you know what's really great is like even if that girl thinks like that I'm a total creeper, I'm always gonna have that memory of Ben, and that's why I absolutely love and cherish my friends.
That's one of the greatest things about friendship.
Yeah, through all of my experiences of pastoral school, I think being friends with Ben is going to be one of my most cherished things. Which leads us into our topic for this week.
Disability and faith healing.
Well, not just faith healing, but
Faith in
but
general.
faith culture. We will be talking about faith healing because boy, do I have some stories.
Yes.
So why don't we start off talking about our faith backgrounds? What is your faith background?
I actually come from a predominantly Catholic family. However, my mother raised me agnostic after her issues with the Catholic Church as a child. And I really didn't get involved in church until college when I started going to an evangelical church on the campus of the University of Illinois. And this was interesting because the church was predominantly Asian American. So I got to see how Asian culture influences Christian religion.
I think it probably was also interesting because I think different cultures have different expectations and understanding of disability as well.
Right.
So that must have been pretty interesting.
It was because for the first time in my life, I was actually asked a lot about my disability, and people didn't just assume certain things like I was retarded or I couldn't live on my own or I couldn't function as an adult. So it was interesting to have that experience at 18, 19 for the first time.
So, would you consider your experience within the Christian church to be a positive one?
I would overall. The only issue that I had going to church at that time was the church structure itself became a bit cultish in the sense that they wanted so much of your time that it became unhealthy for me and for a lot of other people.
So, in your opinion, it started having some controlling structures
Yes,
to it.
yes.
So now today, do you do you ascribe to any sort of label in regards to your faith or lack thereof?
I still consider myself agnostic for the most part. So,
All right, rock and roll. Well, I have a. I think we should start off with a disclaimer before I get into my faith background. Is that primarily we will be talking about our experience uh, within the Christian church and disability within the Christian church. Frankly, because we that's where our background is, and um, I I've had limited experience in other faith cultures, but I wouldn't be able to speak on it with authority. And so Ron and I talked about this. So unfortunately, we won't be able to offer a lot of insight as far as the culture and the social definition and influence of other faiths in regards to disability.
however, we do welcome fan interaction regarding other faiths if any of you have input on that subject.
Absolutely. We always want our fans to get cerebral. We always want our conversationalists to engage in the cerebral action.
Get cerebral, people.
Um, so my faith background, for those of you that have watched the show, you know that I was a former pastor, and my faith started out like many in my early teenage years, um, and faith and music has always been a part of my life. And I um, first became aware of uh, the concept of God in a real sense at a punk show here in our city of Rockford, Illinois, and I started on a faith journey when I survived my first suicide attempt at 14. So I spent a lot of time studying other religions, and it kind of came to a head at the show. And I identify as a Christian. I went through pastoral training. Um, I also have like a bit of a Pentecostal background, so we're going to definitely get into that. To this day, I still consider myself a Christian, although I approach uh, following Christ in a context of Judaism. So I'm kind of stuck somewhere awkwardly between a Christian and a Jew. Some people would refer to me as a Messianic Jew. I don't necessarily feel comfortable with that label for the fact of that. Uh, Even though I'm not sure of half of my heritage, because my mom is adopted, uh, I don't know of any actual Judaic uh, heredity roots, and so being Jewish, part of that is taking an identity in some very harsh oppression and discrimination, and I don't want to disrespect that by claiming that without being able to be a part of that hardship. So I'm very careful about labeling myself with Judaism in any way, but I try to follow Torah to the best of my ability. I celebrate Shabbat and Shavuot and Passover, and it's been a good journey.
Yes, I'm really glad for you, and I see a lot of positive changes since you've begun this journey into Judaism. So I support you wholeheartedly, my friend.
Thank you, my brother.
Yes.
That's right. I love Messiah, I love Torah, and boy, do I love Shabbat. So, uh, faith and disability is a really heavy topic for me, um, and I would assume it's a bit of a heavy one for you.
Yes.
But in our mission to have liberation on all fronts, but for us to have a disability liberation, and since we see it as a social justice movement, I think that we would be uh, amiss to not speak about faith because historically, faith has always played a large role in social justice and civil rights movements. Uh, Primarily, the three that come to mind with me is first Mahatma Gandhi.
Mr. Gandhi and the peace movement.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, I know I mentioned it earlier. I am a pacifist. I I reject violence, and it's a constant struggle. But Gandhi is one of my biggest influences, and he's one of the biggest influences for many of my sojourners in nonviolence, my brothers and sisters. So Gandhi, um, if I have my facts correct, practice in what is known as Jainism, which is a form of Hinduism, and he's centered around his understanding of the equality of all people around the idea that we are all created.
I personally agree with this idea because I do believe we were all created for a purpose of peace.
Yeah, so he really connected his faith to his understanding of the world around him, and he could not reconcile his understanding, his spiritual understanding, without saying that all people are equal and without confronting the injustices that he faced. And he's one of my favorite stories because he inspired a nation that was oppressed, our Asian Indian brothers and sisters, to wage defiance nonviolently against the largest empire at that time, and they succeeded.
They did. The power of belief will always succeed, in my opinion.
Absolutely, and I think that Gandhi really showed that faith doesn't always have to be an oppressive structure.
Faith can be very enriching and empowering if structured the correct way.
Absolutely. Now, going along on kind of an opposite route is our brother Malcolm X.
Mr. Malcolm X.
Uh, Malcolm Shabazz,
Yes.
also known as. Uh, I know that a lot of my Christian brothers and sisters tend to get a little uncomfortable when I speak about how Malcolm X has influenced me personally, especially since he was not a pacifist and some would consider him militant. I don't agree with his militant views or his militant persuasions, but later in his life, he kind of started to reject those ideas. But what was really inspiring about him is that he showed that an individual can change for the better, because he was your average African American man in poverty, and through his interpretations and understanding of the teachings of Islam, he he really began to better himself, but also he empowered other brothers and sisters around him to accept the identity that oppresses them and to empower themselves. Which that's one of our messages to our crippled brothers and sisters in doing this show.
In my opinion, the most important thing about Malcolm X was that he taught people how to apply knowledge and work hard to become a better person and not stand up for the societal structure that you currently live in.
Now, you can't talk about faith and social justice without
Dr. King.
not only Dr. King, but Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes.
Probably one of the most synonymous names with social justice, one of the most inspiring figures, and not many people know this, but he had some demons.
He did. He had some personal demons in his marriage. I believe he had a couple battles with alcoholism briefly.
He was
There,
he was definitely a bit of a womanizer for
there
sure.
were some stories of maybe some adultery thrown in there, and he definitely wasn't perfect by any means.
But the most interesting thing that I find as we as a culture retrospectively look at Dr. King is that we often forget that he was a devout man of his faith and that you couldn't really separate his searching for justice and equality from his faith. He spoke about the teachings of Christ as his primary understanding of liberation on all fronts.
Yes, Dr. King really illustrated the close relationship between faith and liberation and integration throughout society.
Absolutely. And so that's why he's one of our biggest influences. And it's not just merely his I have a dream speech. It's it's the things that he lived out and his struggle that always will speak to me the most.
Yes, it's not the famous things that I look toward, it's the everyday activism that inspires me most about Dr. King.
Now, we won't be able to discuss any of these other figures just for sake of time, but I wanted to at least shed some light on some sisters who have also been involved in faith and and the quest for justice. Um, One of those would be uh, Mother Teresa, Teresa of Calcutta. Uh, that girl knew how to throw down some love and justice.
She really did.
Definitely didn't do things perfectly, but I don't think that you can speak about love, and I don't think you can really speak about poverty in India without putting her name alongside that fight. Uh, and then I'm not sure if you're too familiar with her, but one of my biggest influences is Dorothy Day,
I know a little bit about Dorothy Day, but not very much.
who started the Catholic worker movement. Definitely was a fireball, and I just wanted to make sure that we definitely give uh, sisters a bit of a bit of recognition because we do live in a male dominant culture for sure.
Especially when it comes to religion.
Absolutely, religion tends to lend itself to hierarchical structures, but also uh, patriarchal structures as well. So we just wanted to give a few props, and I know that there's tons of other women, there's tons of other men, there's tons of other faith movements that we didn't even speak about. But frankly, we we're not aware of all faith movements, and also we are not always um, equipped to speak on those things. So once again, uh, be willing to engage with us and talk about your experiences as well. Um, so I definitely want to talk about some of the positive things that that the American Christian Church has lent itself to disability because one of the things that those men that we've talked about really showed us is that we can't depend upon government to bring us justice. We can't depend on government to give us equality. Really, what they did is they built within community, and I think that faith is an amazing catalyst to build community when it's structured around love.
It, I believe it brings people together more than anything else we have in society.
And I know for me, um, meeting people and having community is what has brought me the most healing in my life. And my faith is what led me to the understanding of disability liberation. Uh, I talked about on our first chairside chat earlier this month that uh, a guy I met through a discussion group on Facebook. I talked to him about some of my frustrations, and he sent me a couple books. One I haven't read yet, but the first one I read is called "The Disabled God" by Nancy Easland, and that really started me about getting active in the pursuit of disability liberation and integration.
And that just goes to show that a lot of times it takes more than one thought to spark a movement.
Absolutely. And also, I think I would just be morally missing the point if I didn't speak about the influence I had of getting involved in youth groups and having my first able-bodied friends really get involved in my life. Um, we have a super fan named Jacoby, my dear brother.
Super fan.
Yeah. Uh, if you don't know how big of a super fan he is, he actually created the intro and the outro for our show, and he was my first really close able-bodied friend who was my friend outside of you know youth group or school. Like I had able-bodied friends, but they were never really my friends outside of school. And he was the first person that invited me over to their house to stay the night, and I was 15 years old. Uh, he showed me books and movies and really got me into punk rock music. And so I had a tight group of friends around me that centered around our faith, and we were idiots. We didn't know anything about the Bible. We didn't know anything, but we knew that we loved each other.
And I think that is the most important message in true Christianity. I really feel like the true meaning of Christianity is loving one another.
I actually, you know that I read the Bible most days, and
Yeah.
I just read a verse that Jesus spoke that the entirety of the law um, is summed up in loving one another, and that's something that's has really spoken to me, and that's something that my faith has taught me, and that carries over in my quest for social justice, and not only disability liberation, but also liberation from racism, liberation from sexism, liberation from poverty, and things of that nature. And so I think that if we were to just focus on some of the oppressive structures and some of the negativity that the Christian church has brought onto disability, then we would be we wouldn't be telling the truth exactly.
I I think we definitely need to balance out the good and the bad as we try to do with everything else.
Absolutely. But unfortunately, we're gonna have to talk about some of our negative experiences.
Unfortunately.
Uh, and hopefully, I can't speak for you, but I can speak for myself and say that even in the times that I've been wronged, I don't hold any bitterness or anger towards anybody.
I definitely don't either.
I definitely struggle. Like sometimes a thought will pop into my head and be like, "Why did that have to happen? Why? Why did this person have to say this thing at that time?" And you know what? That's just a part of life. And I've kind of realized like that person, in their own little twisted way, was really trying to love me.
I think a lot of my issue with Christianity is that people lose sight of loving one another and it becomes a personal agenda to make themselves feel better.
So, have you had any negative experience in regards to faith community, in regards to disability?
Really, the only negative experiences I've had came after my testimony.
Your testimony?
Because yes,
What? Can you explain what that is?
I I briefly gave myself to Christ in college, and following that, I received a lot of encouragement that was more centered around making me an idol to other disabled people who were not believers, and I just became like the token crippled guy in church.
So, a testimony is telling the story of your life and how you came to find God.
Yes.
Gotcha. And so you release, so you received some backlash about your testimony.
I received backlash from friends who did not understand why I would do that. And I also received backlash from the Christian community that I was involved with because they could not understand why I had trouble being the example for everyone else in similar situations.
Mm-hmm. Uh, yeah, I find that that the Christian church really gets on the whole inspiration porn bandwagon, and that so I've dealt with ostracization a lot. I remember visiting a mega church and how they set up those crippled brothers and sisters to be able to be a part of the service is that they would sit them in the far back, and there would be these like flat screen televisions. And I understand it was like so that they could see, but really what that kind of sets up is that like okay, like you're in the back because it's easier for you, but however, when you have just a TV in front of your face, you kind of disengage from the greater community. Also, I just always, especially in pastoral school, everything was kind of always centered around okay, oh yeah, well we forgot about what CJ can do, and so if I would go on a trip, it would be like give people these tickets, or they would just kind of make up stuff for me to do instead of trying to figure out what my gifts and talents were, which really was speaking, but they were never really comfortable with that idea. And that didn't always have to do with the disability. Some of it was because I was a little D bag. Um, However, I think that the most damaging thing that I've run into, besides discrimination and trying to get jobs in pastoral uh, sense, and a lot of that has to do with is that um, usually, especially in church culture, people want to hear two stories from a crippled guy. They want to hear I'm crippled, or I used to be crippled, and God healed me, and so now I'm not crippled anymore. That's the one they really want to hear, and I don't get to be a part of that. Or they want to hear God hasn't healed me yet, but I'm really excited about it, and I'm a super huge inspiration, and you should get motivated and go after your dreams. Now, that's not really what I do. If I do inspire people, I hope I inspire people with my integrity in my character, not the fact that I sit in a chair. And so I've really dealt with a lot of hurdles, and not only being a pastor, because a lot of people want their pastor to be a big, strong male type, quote unquote, strong male. I think I'm a strong male. And that's been hard. And I've kind of, in a lot of ways, I've given up on ever being a pastor in a traditional sense. until some major changes happen. But I think the other harmful thing has been the theology around faith healing. Uh, my first experience with faith healing was interesting. Have you had any experience with faith healing?
I had one, and what I really want to say about faith healing is that I felt like they were judging me because it didn't work. So I wasn't praying hard enough, or I wasn't studying the Bible well enough, or I wasn't listening to Christ well enough. And what I really want to stress is that faith and disability are different. You might experience better health because of your faith, but I don't believe it really has any effect on your actual physical disability
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of if you just pray harder, it will get better because it doesn't.
It it's hard. I can definitely share a little bit about my faith healing experience, especially since I come from like a charismatic Pentecostal background. That's a big part of it, especially in the denomination I was in. Going through pastoral school, I mean, it was pretty clear uh, that if you weren't healed, they thought that something was wrong with you. Um, so my first experience with faith healing is I went on my first church retreat summer camp deal when I was about 15. I had just become a Christian. I was like this just dirty gutter punk kid, just a crusty gutter punk kid. And I was just like, okay, Jesus is cool. I think, from what I understand, I had some pretty intense, uh, just real experience that I was trying to figure things out. So, and I was working hard at being open. I was really working hard to really get involved in Christian culture. It has to come from a place of vulnerability to a certain extent. Vulnerability and Christian culture, in my experience, are very much intertwined. And so I was trying to be open with people because I'd never really talked about disability before. And so I remember being at this summer camp thing, and people were like running around and like skateboarding and playing basketball and swimming around, and I was just kind of sitting there. And I had a moment where I was kind of getting depressed about it, and usually I didn't talk about being depressed about it. And so I remember an older kid was talking to me. He's like, "You look kind of down," and I explained, you know, just what I was struggling with, and he goes, "Oh well, CJ, you don't have to be sad anymore because there's this woman that comes at the end of every camp, and she heals people, and she can heal you, so you won't even have to use the wheelchair anymore." And I remember just thinking, why didn't somebody tell my doctor about this lady? Here I've been getting surgeries like a moron and doing physical therapy when somebody could have just prayed for me. And I thought that stuff just happened in the Bible. Like I had never ever heard of somebody getting healed by prayer before, except like when Jesus would do it. But Jesus was God, so I was like, why doesn't everyone know about this lady? So it was the last night of the camp, and of course, the word started to buzz around that the crippled kid was going to go get healed. So it was like the mass mecca. Like I was like doing the Hajj basically, because like I was just rolling with this huge entourage of just like teenagers and like people were coming up to me they're like, I was down at the altar praying, and I said to God, I will believe if you're real if you heal that crippled kid. Some people were like, if you get healed, I'll believe in God. And I'm a 15-year-old kid. Not only that, I had like girls my age being like, when you get healed, I'm gonna be your first dance. And at this point, I was a crusty gutter punk kid who was slightly overweight, so I never got attention from the ladies. So I just had all this pressure on me. So we get there, and as soon as we walk in, like there's just a line of people, and so I'm waiting in line. People are getting anxious, like the crippled kid needs to get healed. Stop praying for your depression. That's not real. Okay, so I get up there, and there is like there's this woman who has just like hair that reaches towards the heavens, and she speaks in the southern accent, but as far as I know, she grew up here in the Midwest, so I don't know where she got it from. But Pentecostal women, for some, well, Pentecostals in general, I don't know. I guess it's like when they get baptized in the Holy Spirit, they also get a southern accent or something. But so I get up there, and she's like, and what can I do for you? And I was thinking to myself, like, I think it's pretty obvious. But I didn't say that. I was like to walk, like to have that ability. That'd be pretty sweet. And so she goes, well, that's good, because when Jesus came across the blind man, and and Jesus asked, what can I do for you? The blind man said, Lord, may you give me sight. So you just showed me a lot of maturity. And so then she like takes out this thing of olive oil and like anoints my head with a crunch. She's like, gotta anoint you with the oil first. And then they just start going off in the laying in hands and speaking in tongues. And I've never experienced this really before, so I was just like, all right, Jesus, take the wheel. Well, then they start just going at it, and then the woman goes, demons of retardation, begone! Get out of there, demons! And so I pop my head up at this point and I go, I'm not retarded. And then this guy who's like one of the recordings goes, shh. All of a sudden, next thing I know, they're picking me up out of the wheelchair. People are starting to clap because they think that like this is a big deal for me. And I was like, wait, I've been able to do this before. And they start marching me, around and trying to get me to walk like cerebral palsy is the walls of Jericho about to come down. And I'm just getting tired. I'm trying to sit down, and then we tried again, and this had to go on for probably, I would say, about 90 minutes to an hour, and it wasn't working. And I just remember finally they sat me down, and they're just like, I think it's time for you to stop. And I just remember bawling my eyes out because I didn't know why God didn't heal me.
Talk about pressure.
And and I started thinking about the kids that weren't going to believe in God now, and how I let everybody down, and nobody really kind of talked me through any of this, and they just gave me like this like book of scriptures and told me to anoint my legs in oil and just pray, and if I prayed hard enough, I would be healed. And I went through years of hatred of myself, and just because I couldn't make it happen. And there was other experiences, like there was times where I was spear tackled and told that I had demons, or that the reason I wasn't healed is because I had sin in my life, or I've been told that if I really wanted to be healed, I would be healed, and that the reason I'm not healed is because I make crippled jokes. That I try to make the best of the situation. I've had a lot of those experiences, and luckily I know that they're complete crap, and that it has nothing to do with that. But those things have hurt. And I think that one of the things that I really believe that the American church can do, the American Christian church can do, is start seeing our quote unquote broken bodies as how we are. And I don't think that necessarily God made us this way. I mean, my views on it, I won't go into fully, but I just look at cerebral palsy as just an unfortunate circumstance. It's just something bad that happened.
It's kind of like if people have genetic nerve damage or something like that.
that's how I really view those, born with disabilities, and also those that just have accidents. It's there's no reason for it. It's just, we live in a world of natural laws, and it's just an unfortunate circumstance. And uh, I think it's just strange when people don't accept our bodies for what they are, and they think that we need to be healed to be whole. Something that I've learned is that God does heal, but God's far more concerned with my heart and that being healed, because my deepest need is not walking. My deepest need is to be a whole person, and I work through issues, and I'm always trying to not push away love in my life, and those are the things that I need to be healed of.
And the physical body is only temporary anyway, according to most religions.
Yeah, and I just find it strange that people want to reject a broken body, but in the Christian religion, most people see, Jesus's body was broken, and that's the crux of your whole belief system. If you claim to be a Christian, really, is that Jesus's body was broken, and it was through that you were able to have a relationship with God. So I think by rejecting our crippled bodies, then you also reject the broken body of Christ.
I would support that theory.
And so that's kind of where my journey is, and I don't think that we can even really touch a lot of the depth of it, but that's where you guys come in. And I know that Ron and I have talked a lot over this week, and we are making a call out to our fans that we really need you guys to be getting on the social networks and interacting with us, sending us emails at cerebralconversations at gmail.com, giving us show ideas, because frankly, we're starting to scrape the barrel here.
We're about out of ideas, so we need some fresh eyes and fresh cerebellum. So
yeah,
if you guys can come up with anything, we would appreciate it.
Absolutely. Also, our Facebook page has some pretty great conversations on it. We are always posting articles and news stories and things of that nature. We've had some really good conversations, so you can like our Facebook page at facebook.com/cerebralconversations.
You can follow us on Twitter.
You can follow us on Twitter at Cerebral Convos. But we have a new project that we unveiled yesterday called the Cerebral Conversations Disabling Ableism 7-Day Challenge. So if you want to check out that video, it's on our Facebook page, and also we shared it on Twitter. It's an amazing thing, and we want everyone to get involved with it. So please go check out that. You can also, if you're watching this on YouTube, it's probably right over in this region over here. Just check it out.
Join the movement.
You can also check out my personal blog.
And you can follow me on Facebook at Ron Jackson.
Yep, Facebook at Ron Jackson. And then my personal blog is The Running Search. It's on Tumblr at cjcampbell.tumblr.com. And you can check us out next week.
Check us out next week.
That's right, everybody. So this is Cerebral Conversations signing out. Remember, guys, keep it cerebral.
Peace.
La 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 la.
Check, check, 1, 2, 3.
Check 1, 2.
4, 5.
I have a golden voice.
Why are you so hyper?
Just pumped. I like doing the show. Hanging with my best friend, doing a show.